This is just a quick decimal review since we're switching gears from fractions to decimals. So a couple of things that you might want to remember. The first thing we're going to look at is that when we are just getting into decimals, we can use base 10 blocks to model and understand decimals. And in the next couple of minutes, we'll take a look at what base 10 blocks are. These are your basic base 10 blocks that we use. This one right here is called a 1, and we call it that because it shows one whole, and it shows 10 rows of tenths. So here's one row, here's a second row, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows, and each one of these is a tenth, and we're going to get to that because that one's over here. This model right here is called the 1/10, and you can see that it is 1/10 of this block over here. If you can kind of imagine, each one of these is considered 1/10, and so one row out of 10 is equal to 1/10. So this is what we use to show tenths. And finally, that brings us to the tiny square, which is representing 1/100th. And there are 100 of these that make up this ones block over here. So again, we kind of look through here at each individual little square, and there are 100 of those. And so 1 out of 100 is equal to 1/100th. And you might notice that I did all of those in fractions, but if you think about it in decimal form, 1/10 could be written like this. So 1/10 is equal to that in decimal form, 0.1, and 1/100th that we did right here is equal to 0.01, and we're going to get to that place value chart in just a second, but keep thinking decimals. And then of course this 1 could just be written as 1.0 because they mean the same thing. We're going to model 1 and 23/100ths using base 10 blocks. So if we use one of these base 10s, again, that one represents the whole number 1, and then if you think about adding that to the 2/10ths, then you would put 2, and remember this is the tenths place, and we're going to do place value in just a few minutes too, but just kind of a reminder, and then 3, and remember these are each hundredths here, so if we add that to it, then the hundredths place is right here, and you would put those 3/100ths over there in that place value. So this model altogether would represent 1 and 23/100ths. And being able to draw these out will help you when you're adding and subtracting decimals to make sure that you're understanding the meaning and not just following some steps that you've memorized, hopefully. The last little bit of review for the decimals crash course is just remembering the place value chart. And so we usually work right in this kind of region here. So the decimal point is sort of the separator between all of these, which are considered the whole numbers, and then all of those other parts, which would be considered all of the decimal place values. So these are the whole number side of things. And then over here is where you kind of get your remainder or your decimals and things like that. And one thing that you'll notice when you're looking at these in words or when you're trying to pronounce them is that the big difference between the whole number side of things and the decimal side of things is that on the decimal side, at the end of each of these place values, it's got the THS. And that is how you can tell the difference in both words and or out loud and in writing, whether you're talking about whole numbers or decimals. So that THS comes at the end of all the decimal sides of things. And other than that, they're all spelled the same on both sides. And then on the whole number side of things, you can see we don't have that THS. So other than that, they're almost mirror images, except again, one that you're going to want to watch for here on the decimal side of things, there's no mirror image for that ones place. So on the whole number, we have this ones column, and there isn't one of those on the decimal side. We go right into the tenths place on the decimal side. Other than that, they tend to go out almost exactly the same as on the other side of things. So The ones is the place value that we tend to do a lot of rounding to, so you hear about that one, and then you're already familiar with most of these, so tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, and then you kind of keep working your way out. This one only goes to millions, but obviously you can keep going this way. And then on the decimal side, and remember we use the word and to signal that decimal there. And then on the decimal side, then you've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, and again, you could keep going. You would just keep following that pattern. So for this last example, we're going to use the place value chart to both correctly write and to be able to say this number correctly. And again, this is just a review. So we would go ahead and we would notice where the decimal is here, and we would kind of line that up to where the decimal is right here. And then we would put things in their correct location. So that 4 is in the ones place, and so we would put that to the left of the decimal, and the 6 is right before that one, and then to the right of the decimal there's a 9 and then a 6 and an 8. So the way we would read this is, of course, we recognize 64 because that's 6 tens, which is 60, and 4 ones, so 64, and then we again use and for the decimal, and then we say this part of the number after the decimal just like it looks, and it looks like 968, and then we just wrap up with that place value, whatever it ends in. So this one would be written as 64.968, and what we would say would be 64 and 968 thousandths.